I was sitting in my small office on a Monday morning, coffee still warm in my hand, staring at my computer screen. 3 months ago, I had a wedding plan. 3 months ago, I had a fiancée named Harper, who I thought was the love of my life. 3 months ago, I believed in happily ever after. Then she said one sentence that changed everything. If you loved me, you would pay for my parents' mortgage. I just nodded. I did not argue. I did not explain. I just nodded. 2 days later, I canceled the wedding. Now sitting here in this quiet moment, I still wonder if I made the right choice. But then I remember what happened 72 hours after that decision. Before I tell you what happened next, I need to know something from you. Where are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. If you have ever felt trapped between love and self-respect, hit that like button right now. And subscribe, because what happened 72 hours after I canceled that wedding, well, let me just say, her entire family showing up at my office was only the beginning. You see, I thought the hardest part was making the decision to walk away. I had no idea what was coming. Let me take you back to where it all started 3 years ago when I first met Harper. 3 years ago, I walked into a small independent bookstore on South Congress in Austin, Texas. It was one of those lazy Saturday afternoons where the sun felt warm but not brutal, and I had nothing pressing to do except find a good book on software architecture. I was browsing the tech section when I heard a soft thud behind me. A woman had dropped her book, a poetry collection, and the pages had scattered slightly. I bent down to help her pick it up. That was how I met Harper. She had this smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. We started talking, and somehow a conversation about the difference between literature and technology turned into coffee at the cafe next door, which turned into dinner that same evening, which turned into 2.5 years of what I thought was genuine love. Harper worked in marketing at a local agency. She was fun, independent, and had her own apartment. She never asked me for expensive gifts. She cooked homemade meals and surprised me with them after long workdays. She understood when I had to work late on debugging code. She seemed to respect my time, my career, my boundaries. We spent our weekends hiking at Barton Creek Greenbelt, getting brunch at local cafes, exploring Austin together. She had this energy that made everything feel lighter. When I was with her, I forgot about work stress. I forgot about the pressure of deadlines. She made me feel like I had finally found someone who got me, someone who wanted to build a life together, not just exist side by side. I fell hard. I fell completely. Looking back now, I realize I was so focused on how she made me feel that I missed the warning signs about who she really was. After about a year of dating, Harper invited me to meet her family. They lived in a suburb in North Austin, a large house that looked like it had seen better days. The paint was peeling slightly, the lawn needed work, but it was clear this was a family home with history. Her father, Gerald, was a retired salesman who spent most of dinner talking about his golden days in the car business. Her mother, Patricia, was a homemaker who kept mentioning how expensive everything had become, from groceries to utilities to medical bills. Her younger sister, Sienna, was in college, studying communications, and seemed stressed about tuition costs. The dinner itself was nice enough. Patricia had made pot roast with mashed potatoes, and the food was good. But I started to notice something uncomfortable. Gerald asked a lot of questions about my job, specifically about my salary. Patricia kept making comments about how Harper was so lucky to have found someone with a stable career in tech. Sienna looked at me with this expression. I could not quite read something between hope and expectation. When I mentioned I was doing well at work, Gerald leaned back in his chair and said, "That is good, son. Real good. Family needs stability, you know." I felt a slight discomfort in my chest, but I pushed it aside. Harper squeezed my hand under the table and whispered, "They are just protective, babe. Do not worry." I wanted to believe her. I chose to believe her. After 2.5 years together, I decided to propose. I had been saving for 6 months to buy a 1-carat diamond ring. I took Harper to Mount Bonnell at sunset, one of the most beautiful overlooks in Austin, and I got down on one knee. She cried. She said yes. She threw her arms around me and told me I had made her the happiest woman alive. In that moment, I felt like I had made the best decision of my life. I truly believed I was marrying my best friend, my partner, my future. Then came the wedding planning. In the first week after our engagement, Harper said she wanted to have the ceremony at the Allen House, a high-end venue in Austin. I looked up the cost. It was around $50,000. My stomach dropped. That was more than I had saved in 2 years. But Harper looked at me with those bright eyes and said, "It is our special day, Delmar. We only do this once." So I agreed. I told myself it was worth it. I told myself that this investment in our future was the right thing to do. I ignored the small voice in my head that whispered, "This is too much." 2 months into wedding planning, Gerald casually mentioned during a family dinner that they were struggling with their mortgage payments. Patricia sighed heavily and talked about medical bills piling up. Harper turned to me after dinner and said gently, "They are family now, babe. Maybe we can help a little." I did not want to seem heartless. I did not want Harper to think I did not care about her family. So I lent them $3,000. Gerald shook my hand firmly and promised, "We will pay you back real soon, son." I believed him. I wanted to believe him. A month later, Sienna needed money for tuition, $5,000. Harper called me at work, her voice tinged with worry. "She is my little sister Delmar. Just this once, please." I transferred the money that same day. Sienna sent me a text thanking me with a promise to pay me back after she graduated and got a job. I thought I was being a good future brother-in-law. I thought I was investing in family relationships. What I did not see was the pattern forming a pattern that would eventually break me. Every time we visited Harper's family after that, there was a new emergency. Gerald needed money for car repairs. Patricia needed help with a dental bill. There was always something, and Harper always stood by their side, always said, "Family comes first, babe." I started to feel this weight on my chest every time my phone rang. I started to dread family dinners. But I kept telling myself it would get better after the wedding. I kept telling myself that once we were married, things would settle down, we would focus on our own life, and these constant requests would stop. I was so wrong. I could not have been more wrong. 3 months before the wedding, Gerald called and said they needed to have a family meeting. He said it was important, that it was about the wedding and our future. Harper told me not to worry, that it was probably just about finalizing some details. So on a Saturday evening, I drove to their house. Patricia had cooked a big dinner pot roast again, mashed potatoes, green beans, and apple pie for dessert. The table was set nicely. Everyone was smiling. The atmosphere felt warm, almost too warm, like they were setting a stage. I felt a knot forming in my stomach, but I tried to push it away. I tried to tell myself I was being paranoid. After we finished eating, Gerald stood up and said, "Son, let us talk in my study." Harper, Patricia, and Sienna all followed us in. That should have been my first clue that something was wrong. Family meetings do not usually require everyone present unless the stakes are high. Gerald closed the door behind us, and suddenly the warmth from dinner felt suffocating. He gestured for me to sit in the armchair while everyone else stood around me. It felt like an ambush, though I did not want to admit it to myself yet. Gerald cleared his throat and began, "Delmar, we need to talk about something serious. We have always been straight with you, and I am going to be straight now." He paused, looked at Patricia, who dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, even though she was not crying yet. "We are facing foreclosure. We have missed 3 mortgage payments. The bank has given us 60 days, or we lose this house." The number hit me like a physical blow. $3,500 a month. They owed around $30,000 in back payments. Gerald continued, "This is the house Harper grew up in. All her memories are here. Her childhood bedroom, the backyard where she learned to ride a bike, everything." Patricia started crying now, real tears this time. "We do not want to burden you, Delmar. We know you are already doing so much. But we have nowhere else to turn. We have asked everyone we know. You are our last hope." Sienna stood quietly in the corner looking down at her feet. I turned to Harper, expecting her to say something to tell her parents that this was too much, that they could not ask this of me. But instead, she took my hand and squeezed it. She looked at me with pleading eyes and said softly, "I know this is a lot to ask, but they are my parents. I cannot watch them lose their home." Gerald leaned forward, his voice taking on a businesslike tone. "Here is what I am proposing. You do not have to pay it all at once. Just take over the mortgage for us, $3,500 a month. We will pay you back eventually once we get back on our feet. Think of it as helping your future in-laws. Think of it as an investment in family." The room felt like it was closing in on me. $3,500 a month was almost exactly what my own mortgage payment would be for the house Harper and I were planning to buy after the wedding. How could I afford both? How could I pay for their house and ours? What about our savings? What about our future? I opened my mouth to speak, but the words felt stuck. "This is a big decision. I need time to think about this." Gerald's face darkened immediately. His friendly demeanor vanished. Time. The bank is not giving us time, son. We need an answer now. Patricia cried harder. I knew we should not have asked. I knew it was too much. We are going to lose everything. Sienna suddenly turned and walked out, slamming the door behind her. The sound echoed in the study. Harper stood up quickly and said, "Let us talk outside." She led me out to the front porch. The night air was cool, but I felt hot, flushed, trapped. Harper turned to me, and her voice was different now, less soft, more urgent. "Delmar, look at me. I have never asked you for anything big before, have I? I work. I pay my own bills. I have never been one of those women who expects a man to take care of everything. But this is my family. This is different." I tried to stay calm. I tried to be reasonable. I understand that, Harper. But $3,500 a month, that is almost my entire mortgage payment for the house we are supposed to buy together. We are supposed to be saving for our life, our future. Her expression changed. The softness disappeared completely. Our life. My parents are part of our life. When you marry me, you marry my family. That is how it works. Her voice was cold now, nothing like the warmth I had fallen in love with. I felt something break inside me, something fundamental. "Harper, I love you, but I need to be realistic about our finances. What about our wedding? We have already put down deposits. What about our honeymoon? What about the down payment for our house? If I take on their mortgage, we cannot afford any of that." She turned away from me, and when she looked back, her eyes were hard. "If you loved me, you would pay for my parents' mortgage. If you truly loved me, this would not even be a question. Real love means sacrifice, Delmar. Real love means putting the people you care about first. I guess I was wrong about you. I guess I thought you were someone you are not." The words hit me like a slap. I stood there, stunned, unable to process what I was hearing. This was not a conversation. This was an ultimatum. This was manipulation dressed up as love. I did not argue. I did not try to explain myself further. I just nodded. It was a slow, deliberate nod. Harper must have thought I was agreeing because her face softened slightly. "Thank you, babe. I knew you would come through. We can talk about the details tomorrow." But I was not agreeing. I was saying goodbye. I was nodding because in that moment I understood everything. I understood that this relationship was not built on love. It was built on what I could provide. I was not a partner. I was a resource. And that realization, as painful as it was, set me free. I drove home that night in complete silence. My phone buzzed with a text from Harper. "Thank you for understanding, babe. I knew you would come through. We can talk details tomorrow. Love you." I did not reply. I sat in my apartment in the dark, staring at nothing, replaying her words in my head. "If you loved me, you would pay for my parents' mortgage." That phrase kept echoing. Real love does not come with conditions. Real love does not manipulate. Real love does not use guilt as a weapon. Real love does not make you feel like you are being drained dry. I started thinking back over the past few months. $3,000 I lent Gerald at the beginning, never repaid. $5,000 for Sienna's tuition, never repaid. Countless dinners where I always picked up the bill. Gifts for the whole family during holidays. Small requests here and there for gas money, grocery money, utility bills. I pulled up my bank statements and started adding it up. In 3 months, I had given Harper's family nearly $15,000. Not 1 cent had been paid back. Not one person had even mentioned paying me back after those initial promises. And that did not even include the engagement ring or the deposits I had already put down for the wedding venue. The pattern was so clear now, so obvious, I could not believe I had missed it. They did not see me as a son-in-law. They saw me as an ATM machine. And Harper was not protecting me from her family. She was part of it. She was the one who made the request palatable, who made me feel guilty for hesitating, who used our relationship as leverage. I felt anger rising, but it was not hot, explosive anger. It was cold, calculated anger. It was the kind of anger that leads to clarity and decision. I did not sleep that night, but by sunrise I knew exactly what I had to do. I woke up at 6 a.m. on Sunday morning. I made coffee and sat down with a notebook. I needed a plan. I needed to be methodical about this. I could not let emotion drive my decisions anymore. I had let emotion blind me for too long. Now it was time to be strategic. I started making a checklist, writing down everything I needed to do. First item, contact the wedding venue. I looked up their cancellation policy online. I was in luck. We were still within the 30-day window for cancellation. I would lose 50% of the deposit, which was $5,000, but that was better than losing the full $50,000 for a wedding I no longer wanted. Second item, contact all the vendors, the photographer, the caterer, the florist, the DJ. I spent 2 hours that morning making phone calls, sending emails. Most of them had similar policies. I lost some deposits, a few hundred here and there, but some were willing to work with me. The DJ said he could reschedule me for another client and give me a full refund. Small victories. Third item, document everything. I went through my phone and saved every text message, every Venmo transfer, every bank statement showing money I had sent to Harper's family. I organized it all in a folder on my computer. If this got ugly, I wanted proof. Fourth item, decide how to tell Harper. I did not want to do it over text. That felt cowardly. But I also did not want to drag it out. I sent her a message. We need to talk. Can you come to my place tonight? She responded immediately. Sure, babe. Is everything okay? I did not answer. Let her wonder. Let her feel a fraction of the anxiety I had been feeling for months. I spent the rest of the day preparing mentally. I rehearsed what I would say. I told myself to stay calm, to be firm, to not let her manipulate me again. This was final. There was no negotiating. There was no going back. That evening, Harper showed up at my apartment with a stack of wedding magazines under her arm. She was smiling, excited. I have been thinking about the mortgage plan all day. I think we can make it work. We could cut back on the honeymoon, maybe do something smaller, and that would free up some money each month. What do you think? She did not even wait for me to respond before she started flipping through a magazine, pointing at centerpieces and flower arrangements. I let her talk for a minute, and then I interrupted her. Harper, sit down. We need to talk. Something in my tone made her stop. The smile faded from her face. She put the magazines down slowly and sat on the couch looking at me with growing concern. What is wrong? I took a breath and said the words I had been rehearsing all day. The wedding is off. The silence that followed was deafening. Harper stared at me like I had just spoken in a foreign language. What is this, a joke, Delmar, that is not funny? I shook my head. No joke. I have spent the entire night thinking about what you said, and I have made my decision. The wedding is off. Her face went through several emotions in rapid succession. Confusion, disbelief, anger. Babe, if this is about the mortgage, we can figure something out. We can talk to my parents and come up with a different plan. You do not have to take it all on yourself. I raised my hand to stop her. Let me finish. You said something to me yesterday that I cannot stop thinking about. You said, if you loved me, you would pay for my parents' mortgage. That one sentence made me realize something I should have seen a long time ago. Real love does not come with price tags. Real love does not manipulate. Real love does not guilt trip. Harper's face turned red. She stood up, her voice rising. How dare you? My family is in crisis, and you are turning this into some philosophical debate about love. What kind of person are you? I stayed seated, staying calm. Your family has had a crisis every single month since we got engaged. 3,000 here, 5,000 there. I have documented everything, Harper. $15,200 in 3 months. And not once, not one single time has anyone mentioned paying me back. She opened her mouth to argue, but I continued. No, let me finish. You know what I think? I think this was the plan all along. Find a guy with a stable income, get engaged, and then slowly drain him dry. Harper's eyes filled with tears, but they looked more like tears of anger than sadness. That is not fair. I love you. How can you say that? I stood up now, looking her directly in the eye. Do you? Or do you love what I can provide? Because love does not feel like this. Love does not make me feel like an ATM machine. Love does not keep me up at night, worried about being used. Love does not weaponize guilt every time I try to set a boundary. She tried a different approach, softening her voice. Delmar, please. We can work this out. I will talk to my parents. I will tell them to back off. Just do not throw away what we have. I shook my head. It is too late. I have already canceled the venue. I have called the vendors. The wedding is off. We are done. The softness vanished from her face instantly. The tears stopped. Her expression hardened into something I had never seen before, something cold and calculating. You are going to regret this. My father will make sure of it. You think you can just walk away. You owe us. We welcomed you into our family, and this is how you repay us." I walked to the door and opened it. "I owe you nothing. Please leave." Harper grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door, but she turned back one more time. "You will be sorry, Delmar. You will be so sorry." She slammed the door behind her. I stood there for a moment listening to her footsteps fade down the hallway. Then I sat down on the couch and let out a breath I did not realize I had been holding. It was done. It was over. I felt a strange mixture of relief and sadness, but mostly I felt free. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The next few days were quiet, too quiet. Harper did not call or text, which I expected. I had blocked her number anyway. I threw myself into work, trying to distract myself from the weight of what I had done. Part of me still wondered if I had made the right choice. Part of me still missed the woman I thought Harper was. But then I would remember that phrase, "If you loved me," and I would know I had done the right thing. On Tuesday afternoon, exactly 72 hours after I ended things, I was sitting at my desk at work, focused on debugging a piece of code. The office was an open floor plan with about 20 colleagues spread across the space. My phone rang. It was the receptionist. Delmar, you have visitors." Before I could ask who, I heard loud voices coming from the front of the office. I looked up and felt my stomach drop. Gerald, Patricia, Sienna, and Harper were walking through the office toward my desk. All of them were dressed formally, like they were going to a business meeting. Gerald's face was red, his jaw clenched. Patricia had tissues in her hand, already dabbing at her eyes. Sienna was holding up her phone, recording everything. Harper stood behind them, arms crossed her face, a mask of cold fury. Every single person in the office turned to look. Gerald's voice boomed across the room. "Delmar, we need to talk." I stood up slowly, keeping my voice level. "This is my workplace. This is not appropriate." Gerald stepped closer, invading my space. "You want to talk about appropriate? You abandoned my daughter, you led her on, made promises, and then you just walked away like she was nothing." People were staring now, whispering to each other. My manager was standing up at his desk, looking concerned. Patricia joined in, her voice theatrical and loud. "How could you do this to our family? After everything we have done for you." I stayed calm, even though my heart was pounding. "I ended a relationship. That is my right." Gerald's face turned even redder. "After we welcomed you into our home, after we trusted you with our daughter, you are a coward." Harper stepped forward now, her voice shaking with either real or fake emotion. I could not tell anymore. "He used me. He got what he wanted, and now he is just throwing me away." That was it. That was the line. I felt something snap inside me, but instead of anger, I felt clarity. I felt power. I spoke louder now, loud enough for everyone in the office to hear. "I got what I wanted." "You mean the $15,000 I lent your family? Money that was never paid back?" Gerald's expression faltered for just a second. "Those were gifts. Family gives gifts." I pulled out my phone and held it up. "Really? Because I have text messages from all of you saying you would pay me back. I have documentation of every single transaction." Patricia stopped her fake crying. The office was completely silent. Now everyone watching this confrontation unfold like a television drama. I continued, my voice steady and strong. "You want to do this here? Fine. Let us talk about how you tried to make me responsible for a mortgage on a house I will never live in. Let us talk about how every single visit came with a new emergency. Let us talk about how your daughter used love as a manipulation tool." Gerald stepped even closer, his voice threatening. "You better watch your mouth, boy." I did not back down. "Or what? You will sue me." "Go ahead. I have documentation of everything. I have proof of every dollar, every request, every manipulation. Try me." My manager finally stepped in, his voice firm. "I am calling security. This is a workplace, not a family therapy session." He picked up his phone. Gerald pointed a finger at me. "This is not over. You hear me? This is not over." Security arrived within 2 minutes. 2 uniformed guards, who politely but firmly escorted Gerald, Patricia, Sienna, and Harper toward the exit. Harper looked back at me one last time. Her face was a mixture of fury and humiliation. Sienna was still recording on her phone, probably hoping to get some viral content out of this disaster. They were all escorted out of the building. The office remained silent for a moment after they left, and then slowly people started moving again, going back to their work but glancing at me with curiosity and surprisingly respect. My manager walked over to my desk. "You okay? Do you want to take the rest of the day off?" I sat back down in my chair, feeling strangely calm. "No, I am fine. Actually, I am better than fine." He nodded, gave me a supportive pat on the shoulder, and walked away. A few colleagues came by to check on me, offering words of support. One guy said, "Man, that took guts." Another woman said, "Good for you for standing up for yourself." I realized something important in that moment. I had spent so long being afraid of conflict, afraid of disappointing people, afraid of being seen as selfish. But standing up for myself, setting boundaries, saying no, that was not selfish. That was self-respect. And self-respect was not something I should ever apologize for. I sat back down and returned to my code. For the first time in months, I felt genuinely at peace. The weeks that followed were strange. I blocked Harper and her entire family on every platform I could think of. Social media, phone, email, everything. I did not want to hear from them. I did not want apologies or explanations or threats. I just wanted peace. At work, I threw myself into a new project. Ironically, my focus and dedication got noticed, and 2 months later I was offered a promotion. Life has a funny way of rewarding you when you finally start prioritizing yourself. I also started going to therapy. I needed to process what had happened to understand how I had let myself be manipulated for so long. My therapist helped me see patterns I had never recognized before. This was not the first time I had been taken advantage of. I had a habit of prioritizing other people's needs over my own, of equating love with sacrifice, of believing that if I just gave enough people would value me. But real value does not come from what you give. It comes from who you are. And I was worth more than my bank account. I reconnected with old friends, people I had neglected while I was with Harper. We started hiking again, playing basketball, just hanging out without any agenda. I joined a local sports league, something I had wanted to do for years but never had time for. I even adopted a dog, a scruffy mutt named Jasper, from the local shelter. Jasper did not care how much money I had. He just wanted walks, treats, and someone to sit with on the couch. It was the purest form of companionship I had felt in a long time. Financially, things started improving too. Without the constant drain of Harper's family emergencies, I was able to save again. 6 months after ending the engagement, I had enough for a down payment on a small condo of my own. It was not huge, but it was mine. Walking into that empty space for the first time, keys in hand, I felt something I had not felt in years. Freedom. Real, genuine freedom. No one could take this from me. No one could guilt me into giving it up. It was mine. I would be lying if I said I did not think about Harper sometimes. I thought about the good times we had, the laughter, the connection I thought we shared, but I also realized that connection was built on a foundation of conditions. She loved me when I said yes. She loved me when I provided. But the moment I set a boundary, the moment I said no, that love evaporated. And that was not love at all. That was transaction. I deserved better than that. Everyone deserves better than that. One evening, about a year after everything happened, I was sitting on my balcony with Jasper at my feet, watching the sunset over Austin. My phone buzzed with a notification. It was a message request from someone I did not recognize. Curious, I opened it. It was from Sienna. The message was short. "I am sorry for everything. You were right. I hope you are doing okay." I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, to ask what had changed, to get some kind of closure. But another part of me realized I did not need it. I had already moved on. I deleted the message request and put my phone away. Healing is not a straight line. There were days when I felt strong and confident, and there were days when I felt lonely and doubted my decision. But each day got a little easier. Each day I felt a little more like myself again. I learned to set boundaries, not just in romantic relationships, but in all areas of my life. I learned to say no without guilt. I learned that my worth was not determined by how much I could give to others, but by how much I valued myself. And that lesson, as painful as it was to learn, changed everything. I also learned something important about love. Real love does not demand proof through money. Real love does not weaponize guilt. Real love builds you up instead of draining you. Real love respects your boundaries instead of trampling over them. Real love says, "I am with you because of who you are, not I am with you because of what you can do for me." And until I find that kind of love, I am perfectly content being on my own, because being alone is better than being used. Being alone is better than being manipulated. Being alone is better than being trapped. Sometimes the best thing someone can do is walk away. That nod I gave Harper that night was not agreement. It was goodbye. And you know what? I have never slept better. If you are in a relationship where love comes with conditions, where every "I love you" feels like it has a price tag attached, maybe it is time to ask yourself a hard question. Am I being loved or am I being used? The answer might hurt, but I promise you freedom hurts less than staying. 3 years later, I am still single. I am still healing, but I am free. And that freedom is worth more than any wedding could ever be. Have you ever been in a situation where someone used love to manipulate you? Have you ever had to choose between staying in a relationship and respecting yourself? Drop your story in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe so you do not miss more real-life stories like this one. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who might be struggling with the same kind of manipulation. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you find the courage to choose yourself even when it is hard. Take care of yourselves out there and remember you are worth more than what you can provide. You are worth real, unconditional love.